Here we pick up with a binomial. Notice that we have only one variable. I'm going to show you two ways to work this. One is a little longer than the other, but you might see it kind of quickly. In this case, it's set equal to 0 already. Okay, that's not a problem. That's already done. Then I have a binomial, and I've got to remember how that factors. I'm hoping that by now you see it's a difference of squares. Remember that you cannot factor the sum of squares, no sum of squares. But here, I can factor the difference of squares. The difference of squares, first of all, tells me that I'm going to have two binomials and my signs are going to be different. One's a plus and one's a minus. Then you're looking right here and the question is, what squared? What squared gives me x squared? It will be x and x. What squared gives me 16? It's going to be 4 and 4. So here, notice these are also conjugates, and conjugates cancel in the middle. That's why we don't have a middle term. But it's a plus b times a minus b. It's going to be the same binomial, different signs. Then you set each one of those equal to 0, and you solve. So x is equal to -4, and x is equal to +4. Now, there's two ways to write this. Of course, you can write it like this, from least to greatest. Or you can write it as plus or minus 4 since they both are the same number. Make that a little neater. The other way is to look at it like this. Since we only have one variable, I can solve for the variable. I bring the -16 over and I have x squared is equal to a +16. Now remembering, how do you undo a squared? You take the square root of both sides. So the square root of x squared, these are going to cancel, and that's just going to leave x. Here's what you have to remember. When you take the square root of both sides, it's going to be plus or minus. And then you have the 4. The square root of 16 is 4. So it's a quick and easy way if you can remember that, and this works if you only have one variable, or I have variable only one time. In other words, I don't have an x squared and an x. So this is kind of short and nice right here, but I'm hoping you can see it's the difference of squares here as well. So you can work it either way, I care not. In this one, I need to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to bring 15x, number 3, kind of pulled on that third column there. Set 15x equal to, or this equation equal to 0. Positive 15x comes over and becomes negative 15x. Set equal to 0. Of course, the first thing I ask is, do you have a greatest common factor? If I don't see it, I fail to ask that, but it should be the very first thing you ask every time, especially with binomials. In this case, what's common is 5x. So I take out 5x, and all that's left here is x to the 1. Then if I take out 5 from 15, divide it out, that leaves 3, and I took out the x, equals to 0. This is easily checked. If you distribute this back, you're going to get that same binomial. So you don't want to, but that's a way to check it. Once you're to this point, you set each one of these equal to 0. Divide by 5, so x is equal to 0, or x is equal to 3. So my answer is 0, 3. Again, it's very, very easy to check if you just plug it in. Now I've got some asterisks beside these because I've modified them just a little bit, because you're going to see some that are a little harder on this lesson. So it's going to look something like this. So if you will, rewrite number 32 as 2x times x minus 3. What you're going to do first is, you can't set it equal to 0 until you distribute. In solving any equation, you always want to distribute first. So in this case, I'm going to distribute the 2x. Well, 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times -3 is -6x, and that's equal to -4. Once I'm to this point, then I'm going to set it equal to 0, and I'm going to solve. So I bring the -4 over, and it becomes a +4. So I have 2x squared minus 6x plus 4 is equal to 0. I've got it in decreasing power, and it's set equal to 0. Again, I ask, do we have a greatest common factor? I do have a greatest common factor. And this, it is 2. So I'm going to take out a common factor of 2. That just leaves x squared. 2 will go into 6 3x times. and 2 will go into 4, a positive 2 equal to 0. This looks very similar to the other one. We'll continue on. Keeping the greatest common factor, don't lose it. Now, because this has a coefficient of 1, I'm going to set up my two binomials equal to 0. The signs in my binomials will be the same, the same. They will both be minus, minus. So I have x minus, x minus. What are factors of 2 that add and give me 3? 1 and 2. And there's nothing to divide out because I didn't multiply anything in. We've already talked about that this doesn't have an x, and I'm solving for x. So I didn't need to worry about that too. I set x minus 1 equal to 0, and I set x minus 2 equal to 0. Adding 1 to both sides, x is 1. Adding 2 to both sides, x equals to 2. So here, my final answer is going to be 1, 2. Again, if I plug in a 1 here and here, multiply that out, it's going to be negative 4. If I plug in a 2 here and here, multiply this out, it's going to equal negative 4 as well. Number 56. Again, I've modified this one. So I'm going to distribute the 3 and distribute the x. Always distribute first. So 3 times x squared and 3 times 2. 3x squared minus 6. X times x and x times 11. X squared minus 11x. Now I need to get everything to one side. Even over here, I have a binomial. And I could take them both at the same time. I'm hoping you can see that. So I think I'll do it just one at a time. I'll subtract x squared from both sides. 3 minus 1 is 2x squared. That's combining those like terms. These are going to cancel. Minus 6 equals negative 11x. That minus is the same as negative. Now, I want to set it equal to 0, so I'm going to bring this negative 11 over. And I'm going to put it right in the middle and change negative to positive. So I have 2x squared plus 11x minus 6 is equal to 0. So now I have my trinomial all on one side set equal to 0 in decreasing power. Do I have a common factor? In this case, I do not have a common factor because 11 is not even. So I don't have to take out that 2. But because I have this 2, to factor it, I have to bottoms up. So I'm going to say 2 times 6, and I'm going to get 12. So I have x squared plus 11x minus 12 is equal to 0. Then factor. Set up my two binomials. The signs will be different. X plus and x minus. Well, what are factors of 12 that subtract and give me 11? That's going to be 12 and 1. 12 is the bigger number. It gets the plus sign. So 12 goes here, and 1 gets the negative. Again, if you multiply in, you must divide out. Please don't forget that. So I'm dividing both of these by 2. When you can reduce, reduce. So I have x plus 6, and then this will not reduce, so you bottoms up. 2x minus 1 equal to 0. Set both of those equal to 0, and I'm going to come up here. So I have x minus x plus 6 equals to 0. Solve for x. X equals negative 6. 2x minus 1 equals to 0. Solve for x, dividing by 2, x equals 1/2. So the final answer that I would write in my blank on a test is going to be negative 6, 1/2. Negative 6, 1/2.